Hello everyone and welcome to PlumesCast. My name is Seth, aka PhantasmaPlumes, and I'm coming to you pre-recorded from the game room. As always, I thank you for tuning in today. If you're a new listener, I just want to say thank you so much for choosing PlumesCast to be your source of information and entertainment, probably, for the next amount of time, because let's be fair, I never know how long these are going to go for. And for all my returning listeners, I just want to say thank you as well. It's actually thanks to you guys that you all have received a new little ad read at the beginning of podcast. I had no say in that matter. I'm sorry. So, real quick, to just start this off with a quick, veil off the production of PlumesCast. For whatever reason, Anchor has me start my ad reads at the very beginning of podcasts. Like, I can't just inject it naturally. So, I guess for every ad, either, until I get the choice to put it in myself or whatever, it's just going to start at the beginning. So, hey, today's episode is sponsored by Anchor by Spotify for every episode now. Ooh. And hey, real talk, if you want me to do an ad read for you, you got to hear my radio voice. I practiced that one a couple of times. Real talk, real quick, I ended up having to write a script for that one just because they had certain key points they wanted me to say. And so I was like, okay, I practiced it a few times, as I was taking a shower to get ready for PlumesCast, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I have a solid idea of what I want to say, what I want to do, so I'm just gonna go with it, and we're gonna see how it goes. And the first take was god awful, then the second take was a little bit better, third take was a little bit better, and now fourth take, I'm like, fuck it, I'm writing a script. So, completely detracts from the script-free, mostly script-free narrative of PlumesCast, but hey, when people are paying you, you gotta play things by a different rule book, I guess. And until I get more creative freedom with ad reads, unfortunately, I will probably continue to make scripts, just be like, oh, yeah, no, this is great product. Anyway, I am excited. First off, I hope all y'all are doing well, because this has been a long requested episode as well. The title for this episode, Anime Con Man Plumes. Your boy has gone through a number of experiences at anime cons, and I have been wanting to tell more anime stories, or anime con stories, especially as a contrast to our more serious episode last week. I'm so, you guys, I usually, every Tuesday on Twitter, at PhantasmaPlumes, I will put a poll on and be like, alright guys, you guys, give me the topic, here's 4 choices, and give me a question if you want. And to be completely honest, I forgot to do it. I need to just start automating them, and I will. But I completely forgot to do it because I've been so busy at work these past couple of weeks. I've been working on, 2 new projects while finishing another. So just a quick veil into my life. I was working on a AD reporting software, AD querying software, where it's just I want to be able to know the absolute second a new user is made in my tenant. I want to be able to see when users are moving around different administrative groups, why are they doing it, licensing purchases, all that kind of fun stuff, just so that way I can, keep some security on it, because we recently went through an audit, and I think that's what prompted this. Mind you, I don't think IT had any issues, which was an amazing feeling. I overheard some of the conversation between my boss and the auditor, and because the auditor came from a different company, and just listening to him talk about the things that I've changed and the things that I've upgraded, I don't know, it was a spark of pride, honestly. And, and I'm talking about all this work stuff too, because up until I started recording podcast, I've been casually browsing around trying to find a new place to live up in that part of town. It's nerve-wracking to some degree. Just the other day, I signed the intent to vacate. And that just, I honestly, the fact that a new chapter is about to start for my life is just mind-blowing, and the fact that, things are going so well to some degrees. I need to take better care of myself still and, like, rest up more. But, hey, everything else is going nicely. So anyway, no, to lead it all back, last voting session, you guys had voted for the how to deal with stress and like AnimeCon Plumes. So I'm like, hell yeah, nah, y'all have made your choice long in advance. The illusion of choice that I've given you has long faded. I've decided that this is the next 2 episodes. Oh, dude, if you can't tell, I have just woken up from a nap not too long ago either. Like, in between searching for stuff, I decided that I was just going to take a short break and then get back to it. So I, like, I laid down for like 30 minutes. It's weird. I've always talked shit about naps, and now I kind of respect it because I feel so much more awake than I did this morning. Like, real quick, have you guys ever had like one of those like lingering exhaustions where it's just like you wake up not exactly in the best way and you have that kind of like not fully awake vibe the entire day? Like, that was me today, it sucked. And it's like, I got a lot of stuff done. I'm proud of myself. As we speak, I've got 2 steaks marinating in the fridge. My sweet Jules has never had a proper steak before, so I went above and beyond. I absolutely, decided to go off the fucking cuff. And I'm like, you know what? She's never had a steak, so I went and bought some, like, New York strips. And I'm hoping to finish recording before she gets home, and then I can, go and start cooking. Because I have some, like, russet potatoes, so I'm going to make a full-on delicious meal for my lovely girlfriend. But anyway, my gloating aside, and my restfulness aside, yeah, dude, for real, like, if you guys have ever gotten a Garmin, like, watch or something like that, one of the fitness trackers, that thing has this feature called a body battery, and what it does is it basically measures your stress and, like, energy output compared to your, relaxation and energy input. The lowest value on that bitch that I've seen so far is 5. And hey, your boy's been down at 5 for like a good chunk of the day. I apparently did not sleep as well as I thought I did, or I was just super exhausted as of last night, and I didn't realize it. So I've been trying to take it a little more easy today, and honestly, I feel so much better after that nap. Oh, God. I might start incorporating naps into my daily routine. But anyway, so I'm excited for this one, though. This is a fun episode. Like I said, I don't know how long this one's going to go for, because this is just, like, usually I have full-on, like, explanations of how things go and like, definitions. It's like, like, if you don't know what an anime con is, I'm going to go over a little bit, but I can't do, like, the whole hour of, pre-conversation before stories. Like, this is just a strictly story time episode where I get to talk more about anime con stories that you guys might or may not have, heard on stream already. Now, I know there was a cooking stream probably about 3-4 months back at this point where Keith and I had talked a lot about, anime con experiences, and me flipping over furries and getting into fights over Tamamos and definitely a lot of ad unfriendly things. Oh, dude, but no, I wanted to talk about more of the different sides of anime cons. Like, I want to tell y'all some of the hotel stories. I want to tell y'all some of, like, the 3 different lives that I've lived at an anime con, like going as a con goer, being a seller accidentally, and being a panelist. Like, on God, I have so many con stories. So this might just be part 1, depending on how long I can record for. But, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited for this one. So, real quick, just to kind of go over what an anime con is for those who are uninformed, which honestly, if you found my podcast and you don't know, like, bro, you good? Like, how did you find me? I'm honored that you're listening to this point, but bro, you good? Anyway, so, anime cons. They are typically, depending on the size and the location, usually 3 to 5 days long. And some of them are, from 8 a.m. to, midnight. Some of them are 24-hour. Usually the way it goes is, for at least cons in the, Atlanta area, they will typically start at about, noon is when they open their doors on the first day. So let's just say Thursday, because for us, it's usually Thursday to Sunday. Sometimes it's Thursday to Monday. Most are like Friday through Sunday, but typically they open their doors at noon on the first day. They run all the way till 5 p.m. Sunday. So you have all that time of unadulterated anime consumption, illegal anime consumption, conspicuous amounts of weebdom, all in a hotel area or some type of con pavilion. Like there's convention centers that a lot of cons take place in. A lot of them also take place across like multiple hotels if they're in a small pavilion together. And honestly, that is probably one of the coolest things about anime cons, because it's just like most people that I know, because I have friends that are just anime con friends. Like, these are people that I only see during cons because they're from out of state. It's kind of funny. I've made a couple of friends that are like, one's a dentist, and every time we run into each other at cons, like, we leave work stuff behind and we just talk about Azure Lane. Like, I don't even play Azure Lane anymore, but this dude's hardcore, or like high-key obsessed into it. And every time I see him, it's just, oh yeah, no, let's talk about Azure Lane. He used to play Fate Grand Order, so we talked Fate too for a little while. And he's just a cool dude. Like, after going to cons as long as I have, and like, because I was thinking about it, my first con was, and this is actually where one of the stories come from, Dragon Con 2012. And God, no, now that I'm looking at the clock, ayo, I've almost been going to cons for 10 years. Now, mind you, you have to skip a year because of COVID, but fuck that. In my heart, I was at a con. But no, like, typically, the way I do cons is that's my vacation time for the year. Just because I usually get a hotel, and I usually will take, like, because previous jobs, I only had, like, maybe a week or two off PTO. So I would take off, like, Thursday, Friday, and then, usually the following Monday, because sometimes I'm dealing with the infamous con crud, which is the illness of the week that gets passed around at these conventions. Well, I guarantee you there's been, like, last year, it was the fear of the Rona. But it, like, usually I'll take those couple of days off. I'll get a hotel with a couple of buddies, and we'll fill that bitch up with, like, drinks and food and snacks, like a bunch of things we wouldn't usually eat, and just go hog wild for a couple of days. And it's some of the most fun. Like, I have so many fond memories of different cons I've gone to. Just, like, and, like, you're going to hear some of the stories, but, like, just from, hanging out with a bunch of people that I usually never get any time to hang out with because I'm typically busy or they're busy, to hanging out like we used to back in high school. And, like, even friends that I've met and made that are just con buddies. Like, when you see those fuckers at a con, it's just straight out, like, you haven't missed a day with them. And these dudes have, like, full-on lives outside of conventions for sure. Some of them do, at least. Some of them that I've become friends with are, like, sellers. But whenever I see them, it's just like, like they pull me back into their booth. We sit, we chat for a while. We go get food if we can. And just honestly, one of my favorite times because not only do I get to connect with the anime community, but I also get to see a bunch of people, and I just love that. I love having as many friends as I do in the convention scene. Now that said, cons can be a mixed bag as far as experiences go. Some people absolutely hate conventions because they work like the restaurants and all in the area, and seeing a bunch of nerds walking around in cosplay definitely is jarring. Okay, here's a story off the rip, actually. I think I was in South Carolina for a work-related project, and I was staying at a convention center, like the hotel that sat on top of a convention center, and that weekend was like an anime con coming through, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Because, I left just as it was getting started, and I was so annoyed because all I've ever wanted to do is I wanted to be the tourist that somehow got, involved in an anime con without, completely did not know that the con was going on whatsoever, and just so happened to, unluckily get involved in it. Just, I always wanted to walk around, in a tuxedo, something that looked super official, even though I've never worn a tuxedo for IT of all positions. I might have to for this business conference I got going up. Anyway, no, I just want to walk around and be, go up to some JoJo cosplay or something like that and look all confused and be like, so what's going on here? I'm just looking for the bed and breakfast. Ayo, I'm just here. Give me the continental food. Get the fuck out of my way, you fucking kids. Can't you tell I'm here to do business? Oh, man. Dude, I swear I have so many, stories of all I could go off about, my different hotel travels alone. But that one in itself was just one of my favorites because... I'm all hooked up to the nines, and, people are asking me where to go for stuff as I'm, getting out the door, because, let's be fair, I definitely am a nerdier-looking guy, especially if I don't, get my hair cut or, put any real effort into how I'm looking, which I guarantee you I did not try at all that day. I woke up relatively early-ish to go back to site, make sure that everything was up and going, and then I'm like, okay, I'm heading back to the hotel. I gotta check out. And I was out the door by maybe 2 o'clock. And I was just like, bro, this fucking sucks. I'm tired. And all these fucking anime dudes are walking in. I'm seeing the signs go up. And all I could do was grumble under my breath. Because I had to be back in the office. I had to take care of something back at the home site. And I'm like, I really just wanted to text my boss and be like, hey, can I stay one more day? I'll pay for it. Y'all don't have to worry about that. But anyway, so speaking of hotel stories, this is actually how I'm going to start all this off. Because this is mainly a story-focused podcast, I have titles for everything I'm about to tell y'all. And these are all hotel stories that have to do with the cons that I was going to, because this is all just a group of friends. There might be some alcohol involved for some of these, but I don't actually, for now that I'm looking at my list, I don't think I was ever drinking at these things. I was tired, I can tell you, for some of them. But I know for a fact, more of my buddies drank more than I did. But anyway, so if you're ready to begin, turn your Plumes history books to the page of 55, because we're going to start with IT Man Plumes with the automatically turning off TVs. Alright, so this was I want to say 2013. I had just recently started working IT. It might have been 2014, honestly. I'm not entirely sure. But all I know for a fact was I was working IT. I hadn't changed my degree yet to IT. So I'm probably thinking this is 2014. But prior to, I have only gone to, a con here and there. Like, I only would go for a couple of days. This was the first time that Jaleel and I were staying at a convention for, the full weekend. We actually, like, saved some money, and we got a hotel room, like, at the con, and we were super excited. And the first thing that we noticed was, like, as we're walking in the room, is that the TV doesn't work. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I don't think we had anything really with us this time around, because usually, I think every year following this, I brought some type of peripheral. Like, most years, I would bring the GameCube so we could invite people back and play Mario Party with them. There was a couple of years that I actually went and bought, like, an Amazon Fire TV, so that way we could stream Crunchyroll to it. I think we had the Wii for some of it as well, but I think this year we just kind of like, we got a bunch of drinks and we were like, yeah, we're going to have fun. And we go to turn on the TV and the TV doesn't work. And this is one of Jaleel's, like, defining stories of me. Like, if my defining story of him was him bullying me in high school, his defining story of me is this glorious, like, completely blonde IT moment I had. Where I had, like, so we're sitting there, we're, like, trying to figure out, like, is the remote broken? Like, does it have batteries? It does. So we go and we try to turn on the TV physically, and the power isn't going to it. It's just like, okay, well, we're sitting there for a minute. I'm like, do we call somebody? Like, what do we do? And he's like, we'll check the cord. I'm like, maybe. In this shining fucking moment of my life, new IT guy over here. Well, maybe they turn off the TVs during certain times of the day, so that way they can, reserve power and all that shit. And on God, Jaleel gave me the most, this motherfucker look. And I will fully admit this, he gave me an opportunity to save myself. And I just absolutely didn't. He's like, why don't you just check the power? Like, maybe the cord fell out. I'm like, and I just doubled down on this fucking thing. I'm like, no, I've been reading this new study that says, like, power consumption just in idle applications is a lot. So maybe they just turn off the... And he's like, Seth, check the cord. Like, he is now looking at me like, I cannot fucking believe how stupid you are. And I'm like, it's not gonna matter. And, like, I go and I turn around and I see the fucking thing unplugged. And I'm just like, no, please. So, like, I try and do, like, some little shuffle to get him to look away. And then he hears me plug it in. He's like, so the cord was unplugged, wasn't it, Seth? I'm just like, shut the fuck up. He grilled me for the longest on that. But, it didn't even last, like, more than, like, 10 minutes. Before he goes into the bathroom and he comes out. Like, I will never forget how he did it. He goes in, he's like, man, I need to go to the bathroom. I can't stand to look at you for a second. He goes into the bathroom. He goes, and I notice there's no flush. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no fucking way. This toilet's broken too, right? And, like, he comes out and he looks at me and he's like, Seth, the toilet won't flush. I'm like, what, did you clog it up? And he's like, no, like, it literally will not flush. So I go in there, and for whatever reason, the plunger on it became disconnected. There was no water, like, in the back tank. So I assume, somebody was probably cleaning it and just didn't, put the plunger back on the little lever. So I'm like, oh, I got this. So I turn on the water, and I put the plunger on, and I flush down the toilet. And, I just, at that point, we had defined how that con was going to go for us. And it honestly was, like, for our first official con being out and about ourselves as, like, quote-unquote adults, we had a lot of fun. Like, we definitely got into more shenanigans than they care to admit. But it wasn't as crazy as we thought it'd be either. Because here's the thing, is there's 3 major cons that really go on in the Atlanta area. There's MomoCon, which is, the one that I'm talking about this time, which has kind of become more of a family-friendly type ordeal. So it's not as, like, you can't have alcohol on the floor kind of thing. No drinks permit or no outside drinks kind of thing. The panels they allow are typically very family friendly. But then on the stark contrast, you have like Anime Week in Atlanta that happens in the fall. And that one is just balls to the walls insane. Like, I love Anime Week in Atlanta. If I could only go to one con for my entire life, that would be the one. Just because, like, again, in stark contrast, Anime Week in Atlanta, there are people selling like mixed drinks on the floor. And it is so chill to just be able to walk around with a drink and just talk with people. And like, there's usually dance circles going on everywhere. And the rave is just so much better. Oh my god, that was something I should have told you all about that. Usually anime cons have like big music parties or raves. Like, that's how I started shuffling. That's why I like practiced my shuffling for. So that way when I got pushed into the music circle, I didn't look like a fool. Ah, god, it was so much fun. Ah, I love dancing. Anyway, and then there's one more con, it's called Seishun Con, that honestly, I don't know if they still do. Now that I think about it, usually happens around, early winter time of year. I know for a while, like, it wasn't the biggest con in the area, but they were growing. After I finish recording, I'll have to, God, here's a side tangent for you. I've started to take like notes during stream. Like, I'm not sure if you guys heard it all last stream, but I had like a little sheet of paper in my hand, and I was just like making little notes on the side of like, oh, I need to email these people, or I need to, look up into this information, see what I can find. So yeah, no, I'm just jotting down Seishun Con real quick. Hopefully y'all didn't hear the scratching. I was watching the audio mixer, and I don't think y'all were even remotely close to hearing it. But who knows? Anyway, God, now you guys are going to be listening to, like, every episode, like, where's the scratching noise? Like, oh, God. What if I started, like, God, I'm on so many different tangents right now. I'm having so much fun with this. But just imagine, like, if I started doing, like, a special noise or something in the middle of podcasts that you had to listen for, and whoever gave me that answer first, like, at the exact timestamp where it was, they got like a prize or something. Like, yo, if I get big into podcasting, I'm gonna do that shit. It's just gonna be like a little ting, and then whoever reports it first gets like, I don't know, like $5. Who knows? Some PlumesCast merch. God. Imagine if I had merch. I don't even know what I do. But I don't even have official merch from like the Twitch channel or anything. But anyway, I've gone on such a far-ass tangent that I need to bring it back around. So, this following story is another one of my favorites. This one actually stars Adam with us, and like, it's funny. Adam, as far as anime cons go, like, I have so many interesting stories with him, just because Adam is not a big anime con guy. Like, over the past couple of years, he came out a couple of times, but he ultimately decided, like, yeah, no, anime cons are just not for me. And, like, he just gradually fell out of it. He'd come through for a day, sparingly if he wanted to, or he had nothing really major he wanted to do. Especially if there was, like, something at the con that he wanted to see, he'd come out. Or if he was looking for a figure. Like, that's another thing about anime cons, too, is a lot of people will go for these cons just so they can, like, go to what's known as the Dealer's Alley. Dealer's Alley. Dealer's Hall or Artist Alley. I combined the two of them. And there's also a couple of cons that have like a Friday fun sale, like a garage sale type-esque thing where everybody comes together and they sell all their stuff. And so that way they have extra money to buy shit at the con. And you can usually like get some really good deals. But there's some shit that you will find at anime cons that you will sometimes get cheaper just to buy at the con. Others, like me personally, I'm not a big figure guy, but I loved importing like Japanese games because it helped me practice, the language. And there was this one seller that I'd always go to that this dude ended up becoming like the centralized core to a lot of my purchases at anime cons. Like, this dude had Symphogear merch, so my old roommate was all about it. This dude had like rhythm game, like controllers. Like, he always had these Project Diva controllers that look right from the arcade. And ayo, I've always wanted one. But I don't play Project Diva that seriously to warrant it. And I don't think I improve my, playing with it. I still look at them so fondly, and I'm like, I want you. But I'd usually go and buy, like, PS Vita games when the Vita was still alive and well. So, like, I bought stuff like Phantasy Star Online 2, like the physical copies of that. I have a couple of those game cards. I bought a couple of PSP games from them. Like, I think I bought Sora no Toshimono. I feel like that was one that I bought. Ikito-sen had a game that I bought from him. And I was just, and there was, every now and again, he'll have, like, box sets of things that have, like, figures put in. So I have, like, a Vita game of, Is This Order a Rabbit? The cafe management game that came out. I have a couple of the Love Lives that, the rhythm games that came out for Vita. Like, honestly, that dude himself is not the friendliest guy. I've talked with him a number of times. But he has, like, a bunch of Toho shit, too, so I respect him, But it's just, like, I get it. He's tired. Like, I've talked to... And that's the interesting thing, too, is I'll tell you all later on. But talking to people as a con goer and then as a seller or a panelist, you see so many different sides of people. Like, when you get behind the curtains and you don't have to, put on the happy face to sell shit, oh my god, you hear so many things. And it's so fucking delicious. I love it. Absolutely love it. But anyway, that's later on. Anyway, good old Adam and I, like, this is probably 2014 or so. We're staying at the Westin, which is kind of an infamous hotel in Atlanta because this hotel at the very top has a restaurant known as the Sundial. Now, what makes the Sundial unique is the top floor used to rotate. Notice how I said used to. It wasn't because of, like, some kind of physical issue. What happened was, and we found this out at the con, because Adam and I wanted to go up there. Like, I have had this mad fascination with the Sundial, because not only is this place, like, super expensive, like, it's $50 a meal, but I've always wanted to go up there with, whoever I was, like, super serious about, and I'm planning to take Miss Jules up there, because that's how I know I've made it in life. Like, I've been promised so many times, like, as a kid that we were going to go there. Like, my mom would take me so I could experience it, and I never had the opportunity to. So I have this, like, overly romantic, fascination with it. And I just want to go and have a meal there and be like, and sit there and be like, damn, I finally fucking made it in life. So, I was going to have that moment with Adam, not to imply, not to imply anything with Adam. Like, this was before I decided, like, it was morely a fascination at that point, not a romantic, like, oh yeah, no, I want to bring a partner up here kind of thing. But we were going to go up there and, like, have a drink. And we go up to the elevator, because in order to get up there, you have an elevator that's on the bottom floor that goes all the way up to, the Sundial. And we go up there, and we're sitting there. We eventually get up to, the receptionist. And I'm like, yeah, no, we'd like to go up there for a short amount of time. Can we, is it possible? Do we have to make a reservation? And she basically told me, like, reservations at that point were, like, a month or two off or something like that, because it was just a very busy time of year. And she's like, oh, yeah, and you do know the restaurant doesn't spin anymore, because I made the comment to Adam. Like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I really wanted to show you the spinning restaurant. She's like, yeah, no, you know this doesn't spin anymore, right? And I, like, looked dumbfounded. And she's like, yeah, no, a couple of years ago, or, like, I think at that point it was a couple of months ago, there was an accident involving, like, a little boy who either got his hand or his head stuck between the rotating part of the restaurant and the wall, and it just smashed that part of him. I think it was his head, because it killed him. And, obviously there's a bunch of signage all around that says, don't fucking go anywhere near there. But it happened, and to avoid a lawsuit, I think they had to kill the restaurant, like the spinning feature of it altogether. So, thanks to one idiot mom not paying attention to their fucking kids, my made it restaurant is now halved. It's still supposedly like a very gorgeous view. But anyway, in my disappointment, in the hotel lobby there's a Starbucks. So Adam like takes me over to the Starbucks because I am distraught. I'm like, dude, let's go get some coffee real fast. And you know what they had at Starbucks? The Taste of Summer. You know why I call it the Taste of Summer? Because they had the s'mores frappuccino with a graham cracker straw. Yes, that's right, folks. This story is called I Still Miss the Graham Cracker Straw because, ayo, they don't have the graham cracker straw anymore. And it makes me so fucking sad, yo. I want it. Like, there are cookies very similar to it that you can get out there, but it's not the same. It's not the same, man. Anyway, so they had the s'mores frappuccino. And, like, I swear to God, Adam and I probably got, like, 5 of those in that, like, 1 3-day weekend type event. Probably more than that. Because, like, I feel like every time I passed by there, I got a s'mores frappuccino. Maybe it was because I was saddened by my revelation, but that thing was really fucking good. I can't tell you how they made it, but I know for a fact they didn't use, like, traditional whipped cream on top. They had, like, this marshmallow fluff cream. Oh my God, it was so fucking good. And, like, that just became the taste of summer for me. Like, I will always, anytime I have a s'mores frappuccino, I will flash back to sitting in that hotel lobby next to the water feature, sitting with Adam across the way as we just shoot the shit about life. Like, it's such just, like, even though the story all had, like, a little depressing outcome, I just always remember that time, and I cherish it, It's to a time that was, like, a lot of, growing up, I guess. And even, like, to this day, like I said, as I have them sparingly, I just always think back, I'm like, man, these things are never as good because they don't have the graham cracker straw. But, anyway. So, I got one more hotel-based story for y'all. All right, this one's titled Love-Bound Plumes Burns. Now, this one I know for a fact that we talked about during that one cooking stream, but for the people that missed it, this was your boy straight out on, like, a simping journey. Like, I'm not going to say I was head over heels for this one girl, but I was, to some degree. So, I had, like, in the years prior, so I believe this was around 2017 or so, but maybe 2016, maybe 2015, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, in the years prior, I had made a con friend who was a mutual friend of a couple other friends. We'll just call her Jennifer, all right? And Jennifer and I had been, we kept in contact every now and again through Facebook, the rare times I would use Facebook back in the day. And we would, I met her at, like, SationCon 2013 or so, maybe 2014. So I've known her for this point for a couple of years. And for whatever reason, this year we start, like, something just clicks between us, and we're super flirty with one another. So at the very beginning, it's me and my friends, like 5 of my friends, and her. And we're all walking together. We're in the game section of the con. Like, there's a bunch of arcade games to the right, and there's, card games to the left, board games, all that shit. And we're just sitting in the common area in between stuff, in between all that. And, like, I feel like the tournament room, because they were going to go watch her play, or other people play Smash Bros, because we have friends that are participating in the tournament. And what made this year so unique was this was the first year I ever cosplayed. And to date, it is my only cosplay. I cosplayed as Little Mac from, Brawl, because I figured it was an easy enough cosplay, and I saw how excited everybody got. So, like, I did my hair up. I got the wife beater, like the black wife beater, the green boxing gloves. Like, hell, if you ever look in the back of the room during streams, you might still see those green boxing gloves. I still use them to this day. But I had, like, a pair of, like, black boxing shoes and, like, the light or the green basketball shorts, and I had the full pink jumpsuit setup kind of thing, or the fucking sweatpants and sweatshirt. Like, I had all of it. But the one problem about that cosplay was I had no fucking pockets. So I had all my stuff in, like, the complimentary bag they gave us. And Jaleel had the bag. Because, like, I had just taken some photos with some people, like, and that was so cool. Like, I love doing cosplays, just doing the one cosplay and, like, helping others do theirs. But I love doing it because everybody is just so, like, excited to be a part of different photo shoots and all. And, like, meeting a bunch of different people that way, it's just a lot of fun. And I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to cosplay over at Anime Week in Atlanta this year. I know I can't do it for MomoCon this year because I unfortunately have the business trip literally the week of before. And so I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to try and do anything. Like, I had to pitch whatever plans I had. Plus, I'm looking for the new apartment. So honestly, the less amount of stress I could put on myself prior to the month of May, the better. But anyway, so Jaleel had my stuff. I had just taken, like, all these photos, and I was sitting talking with Danny, and we're going back and forth. I think at one point, like, I'm leaned over the table or whatever that we're sitting at, and she's just, like, scratching my head or, like, patting my back or something. Because my buddies just ultimately up and leave. They're like, hey, we're going to go watch, some Smash. And I'm like, all right, I'll meet you all over there. So they end up walking away, leaving Jennifer and I together, right? And so we're sitting there, and we're flirting with each other, and she's like, hey, I'm going to go, there's this panel I want to go watch, why don't you walk with me over there? I'm like, sure. So I walk her over there, and mind you, I still don't have, like, the only thing I have on me is my badge. That's it. And so I walk her over there, and drop her off, and she's like, hey, why don't you come over to my hotel in a couple of hours, like, after all this is said and done, and we can hang out at the pool. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm about this. And mind you, I had just gotten out of, like, a relationship, probably, like, if I'm thinking logistically through all this, this might have been 2016, because I know I wasn't dating anybody at that point, or 2015. Fuck, I don't fucking know. Anyway, regardless, I wasn't dating anyone at that point, so it's super cool to, like, feel confident enough to be like, oh yeah, no, I'd love to hang out with you. And then, like, I have my head in the clouds, and then I realize I don't have my bag. Like, Jaleel has my bag and all my shit, including my water. Now, I don't know about y'all, but fucking, like, Atlanta gets hot, right? And I can't handle heat well. Like, it was probably with the sun beating down on the concrete, I would say at some points of that trip, it was closer to, like, 100 or so. And, like, I absolutely hated the following 4 hours. Like, I swear to fuck, I somehow got separated from them at, like, maybe 1 o'clock or so, and I didn't find them until, like, the sun was starting to go down, because I was starting to get into a blind panic, because I couldn't get into the hotel room. I had no identification to be like, hey, yo, my name's Seth, like, I'm staying in this room, so on and so forth. Can I get a key? Can somebody buzz me up? Because it's one of those hotels where you have to press the key card against the thing to go up. And I can't just, like, lurk around the hotel until somebody, lets me up like a fucking creeper. So I just keep making laps, because I go back to the Smash room. I can't find them. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just walk back to the hotel and go from I'll call my phone from there. And, I'm sure Jaleel would pick up my phone. And so I go back to the hotel. It's like a mile walk or so in the blazing hot sun. And they don't have a fucking phone I can use. Like, straight out, I pick up the phone, and it's like, oh, you can dial room service, or you can dial a room, but you can't fucking dial out. And I'm sitting there like, are you fucking shitting me? And of course, I'm like, at this point, because of my concern, I don't remember the room number we're in. Like, I can physically see it in my head, where, like, how to get there and what button to hit, but I couldn't tell you the room number. So, and like, I don't have my phone to check the number. I don't have my wallet to, you know, say which room is ours. Like, I'm like, oh, you gotta be fucking shitting me. So I'm like, what do I do? So at this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe if I just go back to the con, I can, you know, run into them there. Like, maybe they're back to the Smash room. Maybe it's cleared up a little bit. So I walk back over there, and I make the mistake of drinking, like, this really hot water. So there's this central area in, like, Atlanta where water, like, there's a kind of water fountain that shoots up from the ground right around the aquarium and the World of Coke. It's really cool. I want to say it's Centennial Park, but I don't think that's the right name. It's a really cool water feature, but it, like, right around there's like water fountains. And of course, because it's so fucking hot, like, I absolutely can't drink any of the water worth a damn. Because I press down on the water thing, the water that comes out of it is so scalding hot because these are metal water fountains that I'm practically burning myself to drink water. So either I risk dehydration in the blazing hot sun, or I burn myself by drinking the water. So of course I drank the fucking water, which does not help my situation at all. I make the lap back over to the, you know, where the convention was happening. I'm looking around for my buddies. I can't find them fucking anywhere. And so I'm like, okay, maybe if I explain the situation to the hotel, like, I can give them all the information they need. At this point, I notice that I am starting to go down. Like, physically, I am dehydrated from being out in the sun so much. I haven't had any fucking water that's worth anything. The con itself is hot. You know, no AC was really coming through. I end up finding Jennifer again, and I'm like, hey, you know, can I borrow your phone real quick? And I tried calling my phone a couple of times, and, you know, she's like, well, you know, I hope you find your friends. And I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. Because she looks at me, and I'm like damn near exhausted. And, like, looking back on it, I wish I had been, you know, smart enough to be like, hey, can I just stay at your room for a little bit until I can find my buds? But at the same time, like, I knew I wasn't, like, looking anywhere healthy, so I didn't want to impose and, like, I don't impose myself on people like that, but, because I'm, like, always afraid of, you know, being like, oh, you know, yeah, I'm not feeling well, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, I hate being a burden, and I didn't want to be a burden to her, so I continued on near death. Decided that was going to be my hill to die on. And die I almost did. Like, seriously, I was so sick afterwards. So I'm, like, struggling to climb up the hill to get back to the hotel to explain what's going on to them. And I look across the street, and I see all of my friends, and I go ballistic. Like, I have probably never run faster in my life across oncoming traffic to go and deck some motherfuckers. And as I get, like, I call out Jaleel's name, and, like, a couple of the other buddies, like, I just yell out their names, and I just start booking it towards them. And they had the fucking audacity to get mad at me, like, oh, where were you? We were in the hotel room waiting for you. Blah, 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 blah. I went ballistic for, like, 5 seconds. I was like, how the fuck do you expect me to go up onto the hotel room? And I started to faint. Like, thankfully, I caught myself, and, you know, my buddies kind of, like, I think Keith actually was the one that lent me his shoulder so that way I could get up to the hotel room. And he sat there with me for a couple of hours after the fact because I, like, straight out died for a few hours because they had stuff they had to do at the con. But they had the fucking audacity to be like, where were you? So, like, I get up to the hotel room. I don't know if I threw up right when I got there from dehydration because I was just, like, dry heaving. But I know for a fact I struggled to, get into the bed. And then when I did, oh God, not only did I pass out near immediately, but I was in pain when I passed out because I had gotten one of the worst sunburns on my back. Because mind you, all I have is a wife beater on. So like, you could take off the straps and you would just see the most perfect, like, cooked red lines down my back of where everything was. And dude, oh God, it hurt like a motherfucker. It was so bad. But, thankfully we had Gatorade and all, so, Keith sat with me for a few hours. Like, when I eventually woke up, it was well into nighttime. And, like, I wanted to go back to the con because I think that was, like, one of the first years they were doing 24 hours. And I physically could not move. Like, I was so exhausted. I was drinking Gatorade. I was chugging water. Thankfully, by, like, day 2, after a full night's sleep, I was good to go. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm never trusting y'all fuckers with my shit again. And yeah, no. Like, to this day, like, Jaleel still will be like, well, that was your fault for hanging with Jennifer. And I'm like, nah, homie, you had my shit. Y'all walked away from me with my shit. I suffered because y'all, had to watch me flirt. And honestly, I kind of understand it. Oh, man. All right, so I've told y'all 3 stories now about hotel life. Let me tell you 3 more stories about me going to cons, like as a con goer, as a seller, and as a panelist, right? So these aren't, necessarily about the con I was at, but my events before and after. So, and during for some of them. So, let me tell you one of the most wild, like, stories I could ever give about anime cons. All right. So Jaleel, I think it was Jaleel, a buddy of mine, and I had gone to Dragon Con together, right? And we honestly had like a really good time together. It was our first con. I have never gone back to Dragon Con since, just because I'm more of an anime guy. I can fully admit that. I've never seen Star Wars. I've never seen Star Trek. So, like, and I'm not into D&D or anything like that. So a lot of the stuff that goes on at Dragon Con, I'm not interested in. Plus, those fuckers get wild. Like, the drinks and all they toss around at that place, whew. Not for me whatsoever. But anyway, I end up going over there. My buddy and I basically hang together the entire time. Jaleel goes off and finds some of his friends. And, we all got a ride there. So I'm thinking, we're going to leave together, right? No. So this story wouldn't be interesting if we all left together. So at one point, we're getting ready to leave. I think we agreed to, like, get picked up at, like, 10 o'clock or so. And we text Jaleel and we're like, hey, our ride's going to be here at this time. Are you going to be, like, where are you going to meet us? And Jaleel's like, I'm going to stay at the con, man. Like, I know a couple of people here. They have a hotel room. I'm just going to hang with them. I'm like, and I'll just leave in the morning before my parent, like, because his parents are out of town or something like that. So I'm like, all right, man, like, if that's what you want to do, that's what you'll do. So fast forward to the next morning. It is like 7 a.m, and I am hearing like boom, 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 boom against my front door. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I get up, because my room, like my room of my old house, was on, like, basically on top of the door frame. So I could hear the door knocking much sooner before my parents. So I go downstairs, and Jaleel's mom is sitting at the door. And I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, hello, Seth. Where's Jaleel? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, he was supposed to come home last night. Where is he? Or did he not come home with you? And I'm like, no, he said he had his own ride. And, he was gonna stay over there a little bit later and just head back in the morning, like after everything was said and done. And she's like, I need you to call him because he is not answering the phone. So I call him a couple of times. He doesn't answer for me. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I think my friend's gone missing. And at this point, you know, his mom's like in my parents' place. Like, I'm explaining the situation to my parents, and we're sitting there trying to figure out like what to do, because none of, like, I messaged my friend. I'm like, hey, did you hear from Jaleel? And he's like, nah, I haven't heard shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so, you know, like I said, Jaleel's parents was supposed to be out of town. They were leaving the day we were going to Dragon Con. So Jaleel knew that and decided to stay out an extra night. And his parents, you know, decided to stay the night to make sure he got home okay. And when he didn't get home, like, they came over to my place at 7 in the fucking morning after I had been out late, you know, because I stayed up late as fuck after that con. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? This is goddamn ridiculous. And so eventually, as we're getting to the point of like calling the con itself and calling hotels and being like, hey, we need to put in like a missing person report and like getting the fire department and all that shit involved, I get a phone call from this man. And he's like, hey man, I'm sorry, I was asleep. And I'm like, hey yo, your mom is at my house. When I say Jaleel woke up in a flash, he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, your mom is here. And I could hear her from the other room. She's like, Seth, let me speak to Jaleel. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're fucked. Like, you are fucked. So she gets on the phone with him. She goes outside and just starts reprimanding him. I don't remember everything that was said, but she's like, you need to get home right now. We're going to have a conversation about this. Like, blah, 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 blah. And she gives me back the phone, and I'm like, dude, are you good? And he's like, yeah, no, I'll be home soon. I'm like, well, just text me when you get home. And dude, it was so bad. I don't know if he got grounded, because I don't think we were at the age where grounding even worked anymore. But he definitely got in some serious trouble. It was honestly fucking hilarious, you know, looking back at it. Now, let me tell you about how I was a seller at a con, and actually almost got this opportunity to travel the states and sell with a convention. So this was like 2018 or so. I want to say MomoCon, and like these last two stories are probably about 2018 or so. But I was manning the table for Puyo Nexus, which was the English Puyo Puyo fan community that I helped run. Like, I was one of the lead PR. I think, honestly, I was one of the only PR people. So I would be the one to get in contacts with conventions and submit panels and shit. And ultimately, I went through all these different hurdles so that way we could be at these things for free. And it was honestly like a lot of fun in itself being being a panelist later on in the year, but also having a booth. So, and honestly, I might be blending two different stories together, because for 1 year we were a panelist at both conventions, and I think we had a booth for either one of them or both of them. I can't entirely remember. It's a little foggy. But anyway, so we, as, you know, booth holders, we got to go into the dealer's room before anybody like really got in there. So you had all the dealers sitting around setting up all their stock, and it was cool watching this like whole empty room come to life as like anime merch of all different colors filled the walls. And, you know, here we are, this little startup, getting ready to advertise Puyo Puyo, and the panel, of course. So we had like a little competition going on. I'm pretty sure I could still find the photo where it's like, play Puyo Puyo against, you know, the person sitting at the table, and if you win, you get a prize. Or if you beat this high score, because we had two setups. We had one that was doing marathon mode, and the other that was, you know, play against the person sitting at the table. And if you win, you get a prize. But anyway, I ended up, I started talking to this dude who ran, this plush shop kind of thing. I don't remember what his store name is now. But I ended up talking to, a bunch of different people that had different storefronts, because at one point, the store owners would just walk around and just, talk to people. And because I was the one kind of sitting at the table the most, getting things all set up, I got to talk to a lot of different people. And it was super chill, because, like, some older people would come up and be like, oh, I've never seen you at this con before. You a new shop or whatever. Oh, Polio Nexus. And it's just like, it was so relaxing to have, like, a conversation prior to. And I will say this, our stall mates, like, the people to the left and right of us, were so cool. Like, one was some bookseller, like, not like an actual book, like, not like a Barnes and Noble or something like that, or, you know, a reseller of books, but, like, he was a published author, and he was selling his own books. He was really cool. I fell out of contact with him shortly thereafter, but we would trade jokes throughout the day. And then to the left was, like, this kind of grocery store type place that was selling snacks and, you know, keychains and all. They were super sweet. But anyway, I'm doing all this stuff, and this guy comes around from, you know, this store that ultimately ends up dragging me into it at the end of the story. But he's like, he comes up and he's like, hey, you know, you're new. Tell me about what you're doing here. Like, what's Polio Nexus? So I give him the full elevator speech, and I tell him what we're doing and who I am. And he's like, well, you know, I really hope you do well, and I hope to see you during the con. I'm like, yeah, man, like, thank you. So fast forward a little bit, I've manned the table now for, like, I've done my day, basically, where I've manned the table for X amount of hours, and so now I get to walk around the dealer's hall, and I walk by this dude's store, and he's got a massive fucking store. He's got, like, anime, or he's got full-on anime DVDs, he's got figures, he's got plushies, he's got a whole bunch of wall scrolls. Like, he probably had one of the biggest stalls in the event. And I can tell dude is struggling. And he looks over at me, and he has this sign up too. He's like, help during the con, make, you know, X amount per hour. I think it was like $25 an hour. And he's like, hey, you're from Polio Nexus, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, yeah, you're Seth. That's your name. Hey, come help me real quick. I'm like, all right, sure. So I ended up working with him for like 2 hours or so, because eventually I was like, you know, it calmed down enough. And he's like, hey, you know, go enjoy your con. Like, thank you so much for your help. Here's $50. But it was super interesting being on the flip side, like being from a, you know, kind of conversationalist talking about a programmer or whatever, or the Polio Nexus and trying to advertise the group, to just selling shit to people and just having like full-on conversations. Like, it's thankfully, I think at that point I was already working retail, so I had that mindset of, hey, how's it going? You know, and I could talk to people really easily. But I will say this, some of you anime con motherfuckers have no people skills. Like, there was one dude I remember that came up, and he's like, he didn't even like really say anything. He's like, I want that. And he points. And I look, and I'm like, oh, you're talking about this figure. And he's like, no, that. And he points at the similar location. I'm like, can you just tell me what you want? And he's like, that. And I'm like, okay. So I just like I do that thing where you take your hand and you're like hovering it over shit. And he's just shaking his head, no, yes. I'm like, awesome. So I grab it, I, you know, give him, or I sell it to him, and I'm just sitting there like, man, what the fuck was that about? Like, and he didn't even say thank you or please. He's just like, that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I got you, homie. Whatever you want. But no, I ended up being there for like 2 hours, and it, like, he gave me his business card, and he's like, hey, I'm going to need more support through, you know, more cons going forward. What are you doing right now? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm currently working retail, and I'm doing IT at my university to, you know, cover out my expenses through college. So that way, you know, I'm not having to pay out as much. And he's like, you know what? I really respect it. I want you to work with me. Here's my card. Give me your phone number. I'm going to text you in like a week or so. I want you to come work with me. Like, I want you to come have an interview with my business partner. I want you to like come do this with me. I'm like, fuck yeah. Hell yeah. I'm down. So of course this is like me thinking, oh, well, I'll leave, you know, IT job or retail job, and whichever one like would pay less in comparison. And honestly, it was such a unique interview process. So after the fact, after I'd sold, and I can't tell you how much shit I sold, but I learned that I really like being in those fast-paced environments, because some people will absolutely come talk to you for a couple of minutes like, oh, I like this show. What do you recommend from this? Like, I see you have a couple of wall scrolls. And of course, I knew more anime back then. Honestly, to this day, I could probably still do the position. Just don't tell me character names. Like, just tell me the show names. I'll be like, oh, that person. Or, just hit me with Hatsune Miku, and I'll hit you with, like, 10 different posters. Like, yeah, well, you have this one, you have Miku 2, Miku 3, Miku 4 is really cute. But, regardless. So, the interview for that one was really, like, I'm going to bundle this story in here, too, because this was honestly my favorite interview I've ever had. So, he invites me to this tea place in, I guess some northeast Georgia. I can't remember where it was. I can remember vaguely in my head. I think the place was called Sugar or something like that. But anyway, it's like this traditional tea place that sells coffee and all that other stuff. And very cafe-esque setting. Very relaxing. Definitely was the spark of my love of cafes. But I go in there and he meets me at the door and he's like, hey, my business partner's in the back. I'm going to let you know, or I'm going to let him know that you're here. Here's $20. Go buy whatever you want to eat and drink. And I'm like, oh shit, thanks. So I go, I get a coffee, and of course, because like that's the thing too, is like I felt bad using somebody else's money, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna buy myself like a green tea latte and call myself a day. And so I go, I order it, I get it, and I give him like $15 back, and he looks at me and he's like, oh, why are you giving me change? And I'm like, well, I felt bad, like my coffee was only like $4. I think I actually gave him like 10 back, and I'm like, and I tipped the rest, to the barista because they were super kind and like walked me through the menu. And he's like, oh, well, thank you. Most people don't, give me money back. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's your money. So I have this full-on interview. They tell me that in order to do this job, I would basically be traveling a good considerable amount of time. They had a warehouse in the area that they managed, and they wanted somebody to do like IT logistics and, basically manage inventory, help them develop some type of stocking system, so on and so forth, and, travel with them to different conventions and help sell. And in return, I would make part of commissions. I would make hourly when I was working the warehouse, and I would be reimbursed for every mile that I drove, even though I'm driving the company car. So, or the company truck, rather. So, I had the opportunity at that point to travel across the United States. And I sat there, I'm like, I'm going to have to think about this. And ultimately, I decided I couldn't do it because I was getting closer towards, like, the more serious parts of college for my, major and all. And I didn't want, I wanted to go travel around. And honestly, thinking back on it, I wanted to do it. But it didn't, I feel like it would have exhausted me that much more. Plus, I would have had to drive into, this remote location that's, a good hour or so away. Now, mind you, I'm doing that now, but I'm not fucking going to school at the same time. But anyway, no, and this is before the times I work from home, but I was really interested in it. It would have paid decently. It wouldn't have been enough for me to leave the retail job, though, and that was the problem. It would cover the IT job, but the IT job worked so well with what I was already doing because I worked the IT job on the days I went to school. So it was basically free money to sit at the university and do work and then do my homework. So why wouldn't I do that? So unfortunately, I had to turn it down. And I occasionally will get a message every now and again from those guys, not, reaching out to me directly, but I'll see them on Facebook talking about, oh, we're going to this con. So I'm glad they're doing well. every now and again, I think about reaching out to them and being like, hey, if you want some remote help, I will gladly do it for like, X amount. And like, the one thing that kind of threw me off too was the food and all. Like, I would have, they would cover my hotel room, they would cover my, badge, but food and all was basically out of my pocket after like $50. And let's be fair, a lot of cons overcharge the shit out of food. Like, straight out, a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich that usually runs you like $3 on its own was like $8. And they know they can do it because it's so easy and it's right there. And I'm like, yeah, nah. And there's a couple other things that kind of threw me off. Like, there was no benefits. And did I really need another set of benefits? No. But at the same time, if I am out doing, out-of-state work and I get hurt on the job, what the fuck happens then? So, Anyway, the last story I really want to talk to y'all about, though, is when I was a panelist for Puyo Nexus. So this one was kind of interesting in itself, too, because in comparison to being a seller, being a panelist, like, you were up front in front of a bunch of people, getting ready to do like it's like a class presentation. And of course, because Puyo wasn't that big of a franchise, and like Puyo Tetris had only just been, announced at this point that was coming to the West. So like Puyo was not a big franchise by any means. We actually attracted a couple of people from those conventions that have now become relatively large figureheads in the community, which has always been kind of like a highlight of the whole thing. But yeah, no, it's basically just doing a whole class presentation in front of people. And I both loved and hated it. Because anytime my panelist friends would mess up, I would step in to cover them. And then there are times where, like, I know I'm the social butterfly in that group. I kind of had to be the PR guy. But there were times where, like, they'd start mumbling, and I could tell people were losing interest, and then I'd, like, try to interject something into it. And, they'd look at me and be like, that's not part of the script. And I'm just like, bruh, like, you gotta be able to bounce off your feet. So, being a panelist, and, like, leading into this as well is, what I'm hoping to do if I get accepted for this panel. If not, I'm gonna apply for Anime Week in Atlanta and take a shot in that one. But being a panelist, you have, like, these moderators that sit in the back and, like, time you and write notes about you. So that way, if you ever decide to come back, they have, like, a record of you. And it's so wild to me because when we first did our very first panel, the room was fucked. Like, there were technical issues out the ass because the room was not prepared for us. And we lost so much time because of that, and like so many like potential people that were interested in the game, because we had a little fucky wucky. So when I think about it, if I don't get the MomoCon panel, I'm not going to be that hurt by it, because what ended up happening for that one is I ended up becoming the tech support for that room, because MomoCon tech support didn't know what the fuck was going on, what was wrong with things. And I look at him at some point like, hey, can I just step up and give you guys a hand? He's like, no, we got this. I'm like, no. For real. I'm IT. I work IT for Mercedes. Let me give you a hand. And, eventually, I think I ended up figuring out that the main problem was, like, a plug that they had wasn't getting power. And so everything else was just fucked because it was trying to take, power from residual resources that was killing the entire system. And so, of course, after I do all this, like, they had the audacity to be like, oh, well, you guys went like 15 minutes, or like you're 15 minutes into your allotted panel time, so you guys have to cut your content. And I'm like, the fuck do you mean? Like, we had like a whole tournament planned. Like, we had a meet and greet kind of thing with the rest of the group. Like, we absolutely got shafted. And that's one of the most frustrating things, too, is like when you have this opportunity to create this panel, like, we spent days, if not weeks, coming up with like what we wanted to talk about and how we wanted to talk about it. and who would say what and so on and so forth. We had this whole presentation ready to go, and because of their shit IT, you know, we ended up getting in trouble for it. And of course, you know, we ended up going over time, and, you know, at the end of it, like, and the next panelist is coming in and he's all pissed off, and because he's like a higher end returning panelist, like, they basically kicked us off the stage. And it's just like, at that point, I go and I talk to, you know, our panelist supervisor, and I'm like, hey, you know, what was all that about? Like, we weren't given our full time. Like, we did the best we could do with the time that we had, but, you know, I don't think it's fair that you guys are writing us up for, you know, going over time, because you guys cut, like, a significant chunk of our time out. I'm not saying we had, like, a 2-hour panel, but I know for a fact we had at least, like, an hour, hour and 15, hour and a half. And the fact that they cut, like, 15 to 30 minutes out of it, that we had to rush the whole fucking thing, oh, yeah, no, I was upset. And I'm not saying, you know, maybe because of that experience, they've got me written down on the side, like, there's this fucker named Seth, don't let him do a panel ever again. But it's just like, man, that's the thing that, like, I will say that as a panelist, like, some cons will absolutely fuck you over. And this is also coming from being able to talk to other panelists during cons, because you usually get, like, a special badge that says, like, panelist or presenter or whatever, so other people will recognize you as this, and honestly, like, a lot of people will chill out with you. And, like, when I was helping IT and I got to go, you know, talk with some people down at their IT staff, I could tell, like, a lot of people didn't know what the fuck they were on about, and then other people were having issues too, and it's just like, at that point, I consider volunteering to be a part of their IT team. To this day, I think about, you know, maybe volunteering as part of their IT team to be like, all right, guys, let's, you know, I'm the system admin here. I'm not going to boss y'all around, but I need you to follow some set of rules. We need to have some type of, like, level-headed competency, because people are relying on us. Like, if I went, and this is the thing, too, if I get this panel, right, and I get to go to MomoCon and be like, all right, you know, I think I was doing a panel on how I turn my Twitch stream into a podcast or something like that. But if I get this panel and I have technical issues, like, I'm not going to rely on, you know, their support team. Like, I know enough now as a presenter to be able to go off my own merit. And I hope to be able to entertain the crowd without all my visuals and shit. The thing that would annoy me the most is, if I go and do this, I'm trying to promote my brand. Like, I am trying to do, like, I want PlumesCast to be in the ears of the listening public. And I want people to get more involved with the show. And I want to do more with the show. And if somebody dicks me over like that, ooh, lordy, 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 I know I'm going to have issues. And I think, honestly, I'm writing this down on the side too, I think I wrote a review of MomoCon as a panelist, and I was just like, hey, y'all fucked up big time. I might go and try and find that. But anyway, all right, I'm getting off on a heated tangent here, and that is honestly not the goal. But I will say this, if you are interested in being a panelist, like, by all means, go and do it. I think it is a wonderful time. I think you will get a different viewpoint into the world of, you know, anime cons and all. And I think it's, like, a really great way to get back with your community. If you want to do something like, there's a couple of people that I go and see every year. There's the Fate Grand Order fan panel that I go and see. There's the Fate fan panel, like Type Moon fan panel. I know a couple of the guys that run it personally. Like, they were in my classes in college. And, you know, one of them's, like, the brother of, like, one of my really close friends, too. Or at least used to be. Not saying he's not the brother, but, like, you know, I haven't talked to that friend in a long ass time. I hope he's doing well. But anyway, it's a really good experience, and I definitely recommend it if you are passionate enough about your topic, or you feel like your topic is not represented well at cons. Like, I feel like if you have, and this is gonna be a fucked up thing to say, but if you have a niche topic, you're gonna have a harder time getting into it. Like, I know the Toho community has slowly been growing in presence at our cons, which I'm super excited about, because, like, back in 2018, like, Zoom came to Anime Week in Atlanta, and it was so fucking cool. Like, God, I got to see him in passing because I only got to go for a day, and I was so annoyed because I was just like, because I had to work, and nobody would cover my shift or whatever, even though I asked off for it, and they're like, oh, you gotta come in. I'm like, fuck you. Thankfully, I got promoted out of that position. But anyway, yeah, no, if you are, like, really passionate about what you do, and you want to go and, like, advertise yourself, by all means, I would recommend doing it, but do it in a way that allows you to build on other people's interest. Like, that's what I'm trying to do with, the podcasting thing. Because I don't think I've ever seen a single podcasting-related, panel. I think there is, podcasters that go to these things. Like, I know Brain Scratch Commentaries. I don't know if they're a podcasting group. I know they're on YouTube. But they go to most Georgia-based cons. I've seen them a couple of times. And, like, the cool thing, too, is, like, if you become a panelist, you might have the opportunity to rub shoulders with a couple of the other big names. Like, there was one point where I was in a elevator with Aki Dearest, the Anime Man, Joey, Gaijin Goomba, and there was somebody else. I think it was Gigic. Now that I'm kind of closing my eyes thinking about it. They all came to an anime con, or like an Atlanta con. And I knew who they were, but I didn't give them any, like, clearance that I knew who they were. Like, that's another thing, too. Is if you run into one of your, like, idols or something like that, or, like, you're a fan of somebody, don't go up to them like, oh my god, you're so-and-so, I love you. No, like, I was in the elevator with them for a little while because it was so fucking crowded on those things that they were basically going slow as fuck because we were breaking them with the amount of people that were trying to fit on them. And for whatever reason, I just managed to get on one that they were going to, like, one of the top floors, so I had, like, a good 2-3 minute conversation with them. But, I walk in, they come in after me, I hold the door for them, and, we're sitting there. And I noticed, like, they have the panelist things. They notice I have one. I'm like, oh, so how's the con going for you guys? And they kind of look at me funny, and they're like, do you not know who we are? Like, that was literally what came out of one of the dude's mouths. I'm not going to say who. You know what? Fuck it. I don't like the guy anyway. Gaijin said that. He's just like, do you not know who we are? Like, some pretentious fuck. I'm sorry. But that was part of the reason I stopped watching Gaijin Goomba, because just the way he entered that conversation. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but, like, straight out, that's how you entered the conversation. I'm like, no. Like, my literal answer was, should I? And, like, all of them kind of heaved a collective sigh. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just, here with Puyo Nexus. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, And they're like, oh, I know Puyo, yeah. So we had, like, this short little conversation. They were telling me how, crazy, like, they were going back to the hotel room to basically get some drinks and then go out and do autographs and shit. And at one point they're like, do you want to come back to the room with us? And I'm just like, no. No, like, it was more of a, do you want to come back, grab a drink before we go? And I'm just like, that just feels awkward, and I'm not doing that. Like, that's the thing too, is I've rubbed shoulders with some big name people, especially in my, like, in the IT field, because I do tend to go to, business events and all that shit. And I don't know these people. I don't know. And, like, that's the cool thing too, is a lot of these big name people that actually know their shit aren't going to act like they know their shit. So you can have, like, genuine conversations with people. And it's like, I had the opportunity to speak with, I want to say, I'm closing my eyes, I'm thinking about it. I want to say it was Intel. I don't think that's right. But there was a security group that came through that was affiliated with, like, I want to say, no, it was HP. I'm pretty sure it was HP, because they have an office here in Atlanta. But I got to be a part of this big security conference kind of deal where a couple of my classmates got selected to be a part of this mobile IT training truck. Like, they have this truck that carries all this IT equipment around, that it's basically a command center for, like, NASA. Like, that's the level of tech that's sitting in there. And I'm talking about, like, on the TVs, like, everything's a monitor kind of thing. There's cameras and shit. And basically, we are working through a, invasion attempt. And prior to the whole thing starting, and mind you, it's really cool to be able to be a part of that. I think costs like a couple hundred, if not $1,000 plus, just sitting there. But anyway, I got to rub shoulders with one of the, regional managers over there. And I left a really good impression with him because he gave me his card after the fact. And he's like, hey, when you graduate, give me a call. And unfortunately, by the time I gave him a call, he was no longer with the company. And that was basically the end of that aspiration. They offered me a sales position. I was like, fuck no. But anyway, no. So, it's when you see those people, like, I can't stress this enough, be able to be human. Because at the end of the day, that is what we all are. We're just humans. Like, don't fucking appeal to their fame or anything like that. Just treat them like you'd want to be treated. And I think that's something I'm learning too. Just like, because I listened to the Distractable podcast, the one that Markiplier does with his buddies, and they talked about fame at one point. And I feel like, honestly, if I ever grew as a content creator to that level, I would probably still retain a lot of my humanity, but I would still be, like, I would still get annoyed and be like, hey, yo, leave me the fuck alone. Like, I'm out here with my girlfriend, leave me alone. But honestly, if you see me in public, feel free to come up and say hello. I will fucking gush and probably post about you on social media. But honestly, like, and that's just a side tangent all in itself to be like, these are the things I entertain every now and again. Because I feel as though as I continue to make more content, as it steadily grows, I want to be able to at least have some thought in the process and be like, oh yeah, no, this is what I would do. But anyway, I do have a quick question of the night real fast, because I really need to get cooking. My lovely girlfriend's going to be home from work soon, so this one's going to be quick. But I do have a question, and that is, if I got to host a panel at any convention, what would it be and why? And honestly, I've already kind of touched bases on it, but I would love to do a first 100 days on Twitch, or first 100 days as a content creator, and just speak as somebody that didn't exactly, flourish. Like, there's some people on either platform, or any platform really, TikTok, Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, that capture the lightning in the bottle, so to speak, and absolutely just skyrocket. I've talked about them before, but I have a friend that's a VTuber who's steadily grown in popularity, and I'm super excited for her because she's worked really hard at this. Like, I remember when we first started talking, she was still like little follower base. She was having computer issues, and we just had like a couple of minutes, like we actually had a couple hour conversation, I think, going back and forth, and I learned a lot about her. And like we had like this chill, solid moment with each other. But she's steadily been growing in popularity, and I'm super excited for her. A couple of you guys that listen to the podcast have started your own streaming journeys. And, I don't think any of y'all have started a podcast yet. If you do, I want to sponsor y'all. Or you can use my sponsor, anchor.fm/PhantasmaPlumes. No, I'm kidding. Some of y'all have started on your own streamer journey or have been reinvigorated because of me. And that in itself has been like a really amazing thing to feel and to see for myself. Because, it's cool. I like y'all, or I like seeing y'all develop your own brands and your ideas. And I feel like that's one of the things that people don't really get to talk about is when you listen to these like big success type stories where they're like, oh, this is what you should do, to get a massive following. Like, they don't talk about the slow grind that it is. Like, we are competing against hundreds, if not thousands of people at a single time and across a different, multitude of platforms, all demanding a chunk of your time. Like, I streamed Kirby yesterday with Jules, and we didn't do that great as far as the numbers go. And I don't really like looking at the numbers, but, I'm like, all right, everybody and their mom is fucking streaming, Kirby. The fact that we did any type of numbers compared to anybody else, because I guarantee you there's a bunch of people with 0 viewers and a bunch of people with 1s. The fact that we had like a solid 8, 9 for a while, like, that made me really proud. But it's, at the same time, it's just like, I don't think people really give the, way to approach other streamers. Like, the whole thing about this is building a community. You want to steadily build a bunch of, actual active viewers that care about you and want to see you succeed. You don't, like, you could absolutely do empty follower type stuff where you set up a giveaway, and people will be like, ooh, free thing, and you'll have like a couple of empty followers that never come back to your channel or anything like that after they lose. But they absolutely, sorry, I'm getting oh shit, you guys might hear that. Fuck, I did not realize. Fuck it, I'm leaving it in. This is a 0 editing stream. God damn it. Fuck. Oh, well. I'm leaving it in. Oh, man. But anyway. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Jules is about to be upstairs, and I didn't start cooking. Oh, honey, hi. I know you're hearing this in the past tense, me, past tense Seth talking to future tense you, but I have snacks, and you will enjoy what I make, I promise. But we're just giving it more time to marinate. That's totally what it is. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Anyway, I think that's probably enough for tonight. We can talk more about, my dreams of a 100-day, first 100 days on any social platform to build a brand at another time. I need to get to cooking. But hey, remember, you can find me in the night skies across different platforms. You've got PhantasmaPlumes on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. You can listen to PlumesCast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and soon to be YouTube. And you can email the show directly by sending it to PlumesCast@gmail.com. That again is PlumesCast, PLUMESCAST @gmail.com. Guys, thank you all so much for listening in, and as always, I'll talk to you again from the stars very soon. Until next time, everyone, I gotta get cooking. Bye-bye!